And welcome back to Career Build Series, episode 192. And so, kind of thinking of putting the build back in the build series for a couple videos here. So I had a thought that, I was thinking of maybe doing some buildings for some more mining vehicles, but did quite a bit of building on mining vehicles. So what I'm kind of thinking of doing now is I'd like to build something a little different. Um, and build something, a little proof of concept, and see how we can get it going. And so what I want to build is an Ekranoplan. And so for those who don't know what an Ekranoplan is, let's go ahead and bring it up. So this is an Ekranoplan, and so essentially what these vehicles do is they utilize an effect called ground effect. And so if we look at just the picture of the Caspian Sea monster here, so when you get close to the ground, you get in a reduced drag situation. And so let me bring a paint and see if I can kind of explain it from my degree and when I learned it then. So let's say you have a wing, and so you have the wing tends to have a shape where you have essentially, we'll make it really basic, but this is the shape of the wing. And so the air moves more slowly underneath the wing. The curve actually makes the air go faster. The faster air causes low pressure area. So you have your low pressure, which effectively causes, things want to go from areas of high pressure to low pressure. So you have your low pressure here. Let me just undo that. So you have your area of low pressure here. So you have your low pressure there, and underneath here you have your high pressure. And so that causes lift on a standard wing. Now, when you get the ground involved, so when we put some sort of surface, let it be the ocean, let it be the ground, what you tend to get is you'll get, I'm trying to see if I can color this up so you can see. So the airflow comes up and over the wing like this, and then it tries to go back down and join, and it joins this air here. The air doesn't want to separate, it wants to be uniform. So you get the air coming down like this. And so what you do is you get something called induced drag, where you're causing drag as the air is essentially reattaching here. And you also get these turbulent vortices off the end of the wing as it spills off the end of the wing. And so it's a tornado that tends to go down, and that causes drag. And that drag goes in this direction. So the aircraft is trying to go forward, drag is going backwards, therefore slowing the vehicle down. Now, as you get close to the ground, because you have the ground here, this can't go on into infinity like it would, in the air. Not infinity, but you know what I mean. Can't go way down, causing more drag. This tail here straightens out because you have air here. And this air, let's make just the ambient air blue. So you have a bunch of ambient air down here. Well, this, object in motion tends to stay in motion, object in rest tends to stay in rest. So this air here wants to stay at rest. So this red air, the turbulence coming off the wing, it has to straighten out. And so what this does is this gives us a reduction in drag. And so ground effect essentially gives us more lift. So we used to feel this in the airplanes, was as you get close to the ground, the plane wants to float. And the reason it wants to float is it's like you've been flying around with an anchor the whole time, and as soon as you get close to the ground, the anchor's cut. And so now you have all this extra lift. And so we'd account for that. So as we get to close to the ground, we'd pull the throttle back so that we're reducing our thrust. We're reducing this here to account for the reduction in drag. So really simple, kind of dirty picture of ground effect. So these Ekranoplans are ground effect vehicles, and what they do is they stay very close to the ocean. So as you can see here, it says wing and ground effect. So this stays in ground effect, where by being close to the ground, the air tries to go over, it's creating lift in the wings, and it's getting trapped out under here. And so the air is going to go one of two places. Up, pushes this up, and down, pushes the sea down. Well, the sea is very heavy, so most of the pressure is going to push up. And so it allows you to move a very large, heavy vehicle, very close to the water, therefore reducing the drag at very high speeds. And so the reason I want to do this is to transport some fuel. So now with the new fueling system, we have some issues to overcome where, I could bring the tanker out, and I brought 52,000 liters of fuel. That should last us for a while, but I don't want to get in the situation where I have to go do a multi-hour trip in a pinch. I want to have something fast. So what I was thinking is make it at least a kind of a proof of concept Ekranoplan, something maybe along the lines of this. I want to do it diesel. I want to have it counter-rotating props, kind of like this model of Ekranoplan, where we can take off from FJ Warner docks and go at very high speed over, and it won't hold a lot of fuel, but it will hold enough fuel to tide us over, and so we can do very quick fuel runs. We could also at some point convert and do a rescue version that can get out there very fast. You can see there are even some modern Ekranoplans. There was some company thinking of doing Ekranoplans for island hopping. Try to see if I can find the picture of that. So all sorts of neat designs. So you can kind of see some of the, like, this is the model that I'm looking for here. Is kind of the A90. I'm not gonna, it's not gonna be a complete copy by any stretch of the imagination. It's gonna be my own design, but kind of along the lines of this. I really want a counter-rotating tail diesel propeller. But very cool designs, and so I'm probably gonna do something like this. Is the Caspian Sea Monster, and the Caspian Sea Monster had an incredible amount of engines on the front. These are some of the more modern ones. So I think I'm going to go something like this. I want it propeller driven. So let's start building. Hopefully, get this kind of fleshed out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm on my test world. So let me fix OBS here a little bit. And let's go ahead and head to FJ Warner. And so we might as well build this in the water. I want to be able to launch this at water bases. I don't want a huge one off the bat. This shouldn't be a problem because I have no problem building seaplanes. The difference is we're going to set this so it has a max altitude. As you can see, it has these short, stubby wings. As soon as you get out of ground effect, you're losing all that lift benefit you had. So we don't want to lose that lift benefit. So we want to stay nice and low. And so we don't want this to be just an airplane that flies low. We want this to be a little Ekranoplan. And so let me measure this out. So what's that? That is 5 meters. So we're talking 10 meters, 30-foot wingspan. Let's go just a hair longer. All right, and so my wings need to be filled with as much air as possible. So I'm actually going to kind of, let's do this. All right, and so if you don't know this trick, if you put in half blocks, you're getting more air. The more air you have in there, the more buoyancy you have. So I'm going to start by building the wings. And one of the things with this Ekranoplan, the wings here are going to actually give me a lot of the buoyancy I need to have my vehicle float. All right, so as you can see, we're starting to build in here. I'm going to be building in with half blocks to start with. And so all this is going to do is this is essentially going to hold air, and that air is going to allow us to... wrong one. This air is going to allow us to have some buoyancy right at the center of the vessel. So if you remember on the pictures that I showed you, they have big, square, wide wings. Not really what you want in an airplane, but this works very well to trap the air for an Ekranoplan. You don't want a wing design like that on a regular airplane because you have so much induced drag. Well, we don't have to worry about that induced drag as much because we're in ground effect the whole time, and the ground effect is helping to cancel out that induced drag. And so we're going to build a wing, and so again, a lot of this is going to be proof of concepting just for me to see if this will even work. And so I don't want too fat of a wing. This is not going to be too big of an aircraft. So it's just kind of doing the leading edge here. I don't really need to fill that in. We'll do that later. But let's go ahead and I'm just going to block out this tip. All right, and I think I got one fatter on the wings here. I think that's going to be the best way to make sure that I have the most amount of buoyancy in here. We want a bunch of buoyancy. We're going to run into issues if I don't have enough buoyancy. So we definitely want to play with that buoyancy. Kind of almost overdo it to a certain extent. That's going to make sure that I can carry plenty of fuel. It's going to cause me fewer problems when I have to do things like counteract the thrust, because the center of thrust is going to be very high above the center of gravity. So the more buoyancy I have, I can start a little bit easier. And so I'm just going to kind of build this out, and then I'm going to build the trailing edge of this this wing here in a second, and that will start to influence that. So let me kind of look at the wing. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead to wedges. Do 1x4s. All right, and let's go ahead, and that's going to be our trailing edge of our wing. All right, good. And I don't want to go that many. I want to go one fewer down. So we'll stop it actually here. I kind of want a fat wing. I want to be able to put my control surface up. Come on, don't undo it. Somebody again told me that X does delete. I'm aware it's not my preferred method of doing it. That's why I don't do it. So yes, I do know that X will delete. I like to be very deliberate in what I'm clicking on, so I take the time and click on it. I'm in no rush. I have patience, so I don't need to be too quick on these things. I'd rather be accurate than quick, because it takes me longer if I make a mistake. So. All right, good. So we have a large buoyant volume here. So this is going to hold a lot of air ballast. We can even test it. Let's test it really quick. Not there. Let's see. Actually, that would have done it, but let's do it right here. So let's put a meter in here. And we'll see how much air this is going to hold. That's all these little wings are going to hold is air. And that's a pretty good wing size. You know, a lot of things look bigger in the editor until you get them in the world, so that's why I kind of kept going on it, making it the size. So that holds 24,210 air. So that's a good buoyant volume in here. So that should help us. Again, I don't want this too big. I want, you know, at some point I might build bigger ones, but at this point I want to kind of make this a little on the smallish side. So I'm going to start cutting in. I'm going to cut out the back here, and then I'm going to start putting in some control surfaces. So I want to do smalls. So I want ailerons. I'll fix the ailerons later, but we'll stick that in there. And then I want a couple flaps. And I want a couple splits in the flaps like so. Actually, I'll probably keep the flaps together. Where is my center line? So I need the center line of the fuselage. I'm probably going to have to go like that anyway. And then this will be my fuselage here. All right, good. So that's kind of set up. And then I'll do some air dams on the side. If you notice, let me bring up the picture of the Ekranoplans again. You notice how they have these big these dams on the side, these wing fences. You notice this one has a wing fence. They're kind of like, let me see, I'm trying to find some more pictures of them here. Like here, that traps the air. So the air wants to spill from this area of high pressure out underneath the wing. Again, the air is trying to do whatever it can do to equalize. So it's trying to come out the side, it's trying to go out the back. And so by doing this, it forces the air to stay under the wing as long as possible. All right, so that's why you have winglets. This is the modern one I was trying to find. This was one they're designing for island hopping. As you can see, it has a big anhedral. Dihedral goes is like a V. Anhedral is an upside down V. This gives it more stability. It also will help trap the air in here. You can kind of see the shape traps the air. The longer the air stays under the wing, the more lift you're getting. And that is essentially what you want for this type of craft, is you want to keep that air under the wing as long as possible. All right, so there is our center of gravity, of course, because this is all we've built. So let's start working on a fuselage. So I don't want this enormous, but as with anything, one thing that kind of informs our scale are seats. So I want to have 2 seats console, and I'm going to move this, but and I don't want this to be enormous. I kind of want this to be a reasonable size. And so that's about the size of the fuselage I want. All right, and so I can start working with that. So that's where I want this to be. And so we're gonna kind of focus on some of the Soviet era designs and make this fuselage on top of the wing, like so. And I'll just go inverted 1x4s here. That will, do I want to do inverted 1x4s? I forget how I usually do these. Probably not. Let's just go like this for now. Just trying to keep as much air ballast in there as possible. All right, so kind of just playing with this shape to get this set up. All right, good. And then in here is going to be our actual fuselage. So we can cut all this out, and now we can start fitting in our fuselage. So again, there's always 1,000 ways of how to approach this, but especially with this type of craft, I'm trying to make sure I have enough air buoyancy, air ballast, and we'll get the fuselage going next. So that can go there, and then I want to start filling all this in there. All right, so now we have our fuselage, and so I kind of want a flat bottom. That's going to help me get out of the water. I need to get up on plane to be able to unstick from the water. That's something you have to worry about IRL, and so we also have to worry about that in game. All right, so that's kind of showing me where my fuselage is going to be. And again, it's tough to tell scale in the editor. You know, that's why I put the chairs there. It looks like this is pretty big, but, you know, once we get it in the world, it really isn't all that large. And I don't want this first one to be all that large. I want it to be kind of reasonable. All right, so there is my center fuselage. And so I want all my fuel to go in the middle. And that's for pretty obvious reasons. Center of lift is here over the wings, or under the wings, really, frankly. And center of gravity needs to meet up with center of lift, so I'm going to put it there. All right, so now let's start working on the top design here. So let me see. I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's good. All right. So I'm kind of thinking about how tall my character is, and that kind of informs how tall I want this to be. Most of this is going to be, you're pretty much just going to operate this from the cockpit. You are not going to be going into the back here. The back is going to be pretty much fuel and a little bit of air ballast. And so kind of almost doing like an old schooly design here. Let's do 2. There we go. Kind of rounding that out. There we go. All right, so let's start meeting this back up. And then I might lower this down. I haven't decided yet. I kind of have to see scale-wise how we're looking. So I'm going to put it in the world, and we'll test scale in a minute. All right. And it's a nice rounded fuselage here. And I want this to be simple. Again, I'm proof of concepting first, make sure this is going to work, and then we can move on from there. All right. I didn't mean to do all that. Let's go up here. There we go. All right, so let's go in here, and we're going to test this out. Again, it's good to put it back and forth in the world, see how the scale feels to me. Like, see, that seems pretty huge in the editor, but as we... I don't know why my note clip is not working. There we go. As we get it in here, as you can see, it's not terribly huge. You know, let's take a look with the camera. As you see, that's a pretty reasonable size. So that's what we're working with here, and that's going to be where the majority of our fuel is. The next thing I want to do, again, this is another method that I find to be very useful. What is in my workbench? See, this is one of the issues that I have with the new update is I'm going to use water instead of diesel. And the reason is normally I would fill this with diesel just to test, the mechanics of putting fuel in there. Can't do that because I need it in my bench. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to put water. In real life, water is 8 pounds per gallon. In real life, jet fuel is avgas, I think, is 6.7 pounds per gallon. Of course, that's why, oil floats on water. Lower density. Let me lay this in the water. It's also dropping really violently. See how high it's dropping? So it doesn't surprise me that it's trying to roll over. So let's kind of sit it in the water. See what 50% is? That sits nicely. And so we're going to actually have more buoyancy. My intention is to have this the only area that carries fuel. My empennage, my tail section, that's going to be full of air. Again, that's more buoyancy in the rear. My front fuselage is going to be, or my fuselage in the front is going to be full of air. That's more buoyancy. And so we have buoyancy, 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 and then brick of weight. All right. So next thing I want to do is hook a meter up. And let's check the volume. I don't want to do that. Let me see. I just punch it in the wall for now. Punch a fluid meter in, and I can see what we're looking at here for volume. Okay. All right, there we go. So that right there is 10,000 liters, 20,000 total. So let me just do it liters to gallon. I think it's, was it 3.75? Yeah, 785. 3785. So we're talking 10,000. So we're talking 2,600 gallons. That's pretty respectable. So even with this at 50%, which let's go in there. You see this is at 50%. Now see how the vehicle is now tilting? That's because the fluid is running in the back. You would actually solve this the way you would solve it in real life. And the way you solve it in real life is with, they'll use baffles, but you know, you can have baffles with holes in them, or you can have solid baffles like this. And so what you would do is you'd baffle it like that. And so now it shouldn't do that, because each segment can have the fuel run to the back of the segment, but the front segment can't give all of its liquid to the back. You notice how we're not tilting as much? So by baffling this, we keep it from tilting. So that's pretty good. So I would say a 50% capacity is pretty good on this. And so what I'm going to do is I want my center of gravity low as well. I don't want the fuel all the way up to the roof. So what I'm going to do here is let's take off this environmental. And let's go ahead and... Okay, let's check. We'll keep the baffles in there. And I will just make it so that you have to fill each chamber. And then what I want to do is I want to count. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're 9. So let's go ahead and let's say we want to do 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At 6, we're going to put a wall in here. All right, that's going to make it so that we can only fill, you know, about half the volume, and then that will give us a nice layer of air at the top, which will give us a nice low center of gravity. All the fuel sits low, and then we have a nice air ballast up top. Now we don't need baffles in the top because we don't need to baffle air, because air is free floating and it fits its container. So that's going to be more air ballast up top. And then our fuel ballast is nice and baffled here. We'll put in separate fluid ports and pumps and all that good jazz in there. Let me just, I'm going to do one test here. I'm going to take my spawner, and I'm going to put 2 more of them in here. And we'll set them all to fresh water, and we'll test the, see if we can take all of this. And I'll actually just punch in a couple more meters. I was going to try to estimate it, but I think it's might as well just punch a couple meters in here, and then that will tell me where we're at. And then at some point we'll put a cross-flow system in so that we can make sure all the fuel is balanced. You want to make sure, especially with an aircraft, that you're not moving your center of gravity too much. That's why, you know, in the airlines they might ask you to move from this section to the next. So that's 27. We're at the 21. And then this tail section will add some buoyancy as well. I can't even find it. Where is it? There it is. So 32. So this is actually the largest section in the back. All right, good. So now we're kind of we're making some progress here. And so next thing I want to do is I kind of want to work on the tailplane. So let's go ahead and let's cut that out. And I'm going to put in some wedges here. We lose buoyancy with these, but we're not going to lose too much. So let's go ahead like this. All right. And so I don't want this to be enormous, but I want to have a pretty good size. So let's go pyramids. Let's switch to 2x4s here. Now let's try to get our tailplane set up. All right. And we'll start bringing our tailplane up. And we want enough so that when we rotate, we can actually get out of the water. So we need a nice ramp to get us out of that water. All right, and there we go there. All right, nice. So we're starting to get this done. Now, remember, this is going to be full of air as well, so that's going to give us more buoyancy. So we should have more than enough buoyancy to carry those full fuel tanks. And I don't want an insane amount of fuel. Again, I'm in no rush. I don't need to have every run be worth $1 million. I don't need any of that stuff. I want to have fun. I want it to be realistic. That's how I like to play. And so I'm going to make this, operate pretty realistically here. All right, so there comes my empennage here. We're fixing up the tailplane. Now, there's an issue with the way that in-game drag works with having, long wedges, where the long wedges should have less drag, but they end up having more drag. And so these will have less buoyancy. But again, the point is, by balancing that center section, we shouldn't really be relying on the tailplane to take care of us. We should hopefully be all set. All right, and then what I want to do, let's see. Trying to think how to set this up here. Where we're at 2s here. Trying to see how I can set this up. So kind of finishing off my tailplane here. Let's grab some pyramid pieces. We'll see how this looks. Again, I don't want to be super artsy-fartsy on this, and I don't want to make it look perfect. That's not the phase of development I'm in right now. Right now, the plan is get this working, because if it's not going to work, there's no point in me making it pretty. Making something pretty comes later when I actually that should go. Making it pretty comes later when I know that it works. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this making it pretty and then realize, oh, it doesn't work, Okay, good. And so this is going to go up here. And so often tailplanes can be a little bit weird the way they end. So I'm not really all that worried about that. That is kind of funky though there. It's actually not going to be too bad because I'm going to do the vertical section on there. Let me see if I can't cut this in. Should be able to cut. See, this is the problem. We're transitioning from 2s to 4s. So let's go to 4s here. Cut this back. Get this tailplane's a little bit weird for me. I want to fix this tailplane up. So let's see. Can I cut in here? I should be able to. So let's go like this here. Grab wedges and see if I can't start cutting in. Actually, we want 2 wedges here. So there. So, this is kind of an old schooly design in the tail here where they tended to end abruptly. Don't know if I really want to do that like that. Let me try to figure out how I want to complete this. I think I want to transition from 4s to 2s. So right now I'm running 4s. I want to run 2s, so I need 2x2s in this section here. There we go. There we go. Now I'm going to go up even sharper. Okay, good. And now so I need to conjoin this section here. And so we should be able to continue with this until we get, I think, up to the next one. And then how are we looking for a... Where's my 2x? There it is. Yeah, I kind of want it the other way. Let's go 2x pyramid. And so I'm trying to see how I want to end this. It's a little tough working with these doubles here. Trying to see how I can end this gracefully here. Could put the tailplane lower, but I'm kind of worried about my elevators. Let's see if I can cut in as well. I'm going to start cutting in here as well, so I need to kind of... So right here I should be cutting in, I think. I need to start moving inward as well. So let's try. This is down to 1x's, which should be able to make work. It's a little bit sharp for me. That's way sharp. Okay. Let's cut. Let's keep going with these 4s, I guess. Okay. So this probably will work better with these twos up here. I have to kind of try to get the angles correct here, which is sometimes a challenge. So try to get this finished up. Again, you do better if you work on your float tests and everything else, making sure everything's floating properly before you get into too much aesthetic stuff. So I'm screwing that all up. There we go. Pressing all the wrong buttons there. There we go. Okay. Okay. Then where are we at here? We want two goes here. Go down. Okay, so I'm digging this now a little bit better. This is going to be an interesting area to finish here. Trying to think if I could think of a way to carry it up and not have an issue, but the way I did the top is just kind of tough. But I'm going to cut in the tail plane. So let me start working on the tail plane and actually kind of seeing how this needs to go. So it's going to have a long drawn out tail plane. And then I want to put the, kind of has to be sharper than that. Yeah, it needs to be sharper than that. It needs to be 2x wedges at least, because I'm going to put a puller prop on there. And so, yeah, that's better. And so the puller prop, I need propeller space in here. And so I'm going to stick some propellers in there. I want to make sure I can make this work first. So we're going to have a puller prop like that. And then let's figure I need 2 up from that. So 1, 2. Let's go ahead and grab some props. And I want a big diesel in here. I don't want, yeah, I want a big diesel because I want it to be very fuel efficient. Let's see where we're at here. Maybe this. And then we'll go max size on this. Size, neutral, 5 blade. And so I'm just trying to space this out, make sure I have enough space. So this is better here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So max size, neutral, and 5. All right, so that looks, and as you can see, that's not going to hit. So that was important. So the engine is going in here. And so it's going to be contained. So probably actually go one more down on the engine. That also helped keep that center of gravity forward. So let's go ahead like this. All right. And again, I'm not trying to work on aesthetics here. I'm trying to get this to the point where I can make sure it works, because I could do aesthetics work all day long and then it doesn't work. And then what was the point of doing all that aesthetics work if I can't get this to work at the end? So I'm just kind of framing out the engine nacelle. So we have to do a bunch of stuff because our center of thrust is now much higher than our center of gravity. We have to do some tricky tricks to get that to work right. All right, but now we kind of know where our tail plane is going to be, so I can start building that in and help integrate it into the section down here. I didn't mean to do all that crap. Go back. All right, and then so this like goes all the way like that. So this probably have some sort of T-tail, I imagine. This will slope down. I don't need an enormous engine here, so let's grab all of that. Let's go, I think 2x maybe. 2x wedges in there. That's not terrible. So just kind of doing a little shaping here. Again, we have to build a lot of the front out, so we're gonna have an probably equal length to more length on the front to kind of counteract that tail plane anyway. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Kind of looking at some reference pictures here. All right, so they're doing their tailplane really up high, which makes sense. So I think that's what I'm going to kind of do. So we will do a rudder in the back here, an air rudder. So right about here somewhere. So let's go ahead and do a fin. I'm sorry, control. Get the name right there. Let's try a medium, see how huge a medium is. Medium's pretty big. Like that. So that should stay out of the water the whole time. We don't really, that's not going to end up in the water. All right, so let's go like this. Okay. So it has a much sharper tail plane. I'm not digging this tail plane right, this section here. So what we'll do is we'll sharpen this up by going, oh, like this maybe. That's better, I think. All right, so that's pretty good, I think. A little bit on the fat side. Yeah, a little bit on the fat side, so let's do this. I think it's definitely feeling a little fat to me. So let's go up and let's go right in here, I think. Yeah, let's go right about there. And so I started doing this tail section because I wanted to make sure it was, that will kind of inform how I finish off this bottom empennage here to get this where I want it. Okay, that's good there. Let's go ahead and grab some, do I have 1x4 pyramids anywhere? Probably not. 1x4 pyramids here, and so right along the side of here is going to be my wing. So I need to figure out how wide this engine is going to be. So I need about 5 blocks, I think. So let's step it back to here. So we have it's 3, 5. That will contain the engine there. So this is going to be how big our engine nacelle is. Come on, man. Be helpful there, guy. There we go. Come on, get out of there. So this is going to be how much space I have to put my engine in here. And then I assume we're going to need to go, and then I'm going to make it kind of boxed at the back here so it doesn't need to be completely smoothed out, but something like that. Yeah, that won't really cut it, will it? This will change up top. I need to kind of, this surface in the front is what's important here. Okay. So that would be kind of the shape of it there. Yeah, so it's kind of working on the shape here because then I need to put on the elevators. And so once I kind of get the shape of the engine nacelle, I know where I can put my elevators and whatnots in there. Okay, there we go. So starting to kind of get this shaped out where I have enough space for, I'm kind of imagining how my cylinder is going to look, and that gives me kind of an idea of how much space I need. And I'll finish this up here, and that will kind of clean up my engine nacelle. See, will that give me enough space? It's a little bit hairy on space if I go that small, but let's try it. See if that gives me enough engine. I think that should give me enough space for enough engine. We shall see. If it's not, I can reevaluate. But I want to get the control surfaces, and I really want to kind of at least fake this in the air by doing, I want to make sure it will function. Okay. And so here I can kind of just kind of working the nacelle here in the back. All right, so pretty good shapely nacelle. There we go. So we have a nice engine nacelle there, and then on the sides of the nacelle is where I'm going to put my my elevators, and that's why I wanted to get that built, was to get the elevators. And so this is actually going to be also part of the lift, is by having this in here. This will help me with my lift. Okay, what the heck? So I need to kind of have my back here. So right about there probably. And then I want to have these mediums as my elevator. And again, I'll get those set up later. Probably more like that maybe. All right, so now it kind of informs me where this is gonna have to go. So I'm probably gonna go probably one past, and then maybe like that. And then so that kind of gives me what I need in there for actually angles. So probably 1x4s maybe at this point. I need quite a bit of sweep on there to get this to match up properly. Yeah, so that's pretty good. It's gonna be kind of a more modern high sweep on there. There we go. So that's coming along there. All right, good. So that kind of fits out my tail plane. So we have elevators, we have rudder. We have our propulsion. That's pretty good. Tailplane is still a little weird to me, but I'm not all that concerned with it at the moment. See if I can't join this up here. This is where it gets a little dicey here, is trying to get this to match. I have to try to figure the angles here. Doesn't have to be perfect. You know, often this is where they'd have like radar operators and stuff. You know, we're missing blocks, of course. You know, the game doesn't have all the blocks that we should have, but like even something like that, I'm not, you know, that doesn't bother me too much. You know, it's not perfect, but it doesn't bother me all that much. So again, I want to get this proof of concept. I want to make sure this works before I worry about making it gorgeous. That is a much later process. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's put a floor in here. So that's all air volume. That's going to give us a lot more buoyancy. And now, so we need to start digging into this front. And I need to build a forward fuselage, trying to get more buoyancy in here. Okay, and so let's drag out the front. And so I kind of want a long front on this. Tend to be, if you put the engine in the back, because there's a lot of mass back here, you need to have a long arm, a long lever arm in order to counteract that mass. So you need a longer front section. So like if you tend to, like in a, say an airliner, if you put the engines under the wings, the front section of the fuselage and the empennage will be pretty close to equal length. When you have a tail-mounted engines, you tend to need a lot more forward fuselage in order to account for that. I'd rather not go 1x1s, but I'm going to do 1x1 wedges just because of our... No, I'm not going to. I was going to say, you know, there's such a drag issue in game that it's just too slight of an angle. I need a longer slope. But I can overcome this with some other things. We lose buoyancy, but we should have more than enough air volume in here. And again, I kind of like the ugly little duckling type of look, so I'm not really opposed to having... Actually, I did 1x2s under here. Let me run 1x2s here. Get rid of all that. Let's go 1x2s here. Okay. We'll make it the same as the back. Sometimes they're tough to join up, but you know, like here, that's kind of, I don't like that the way it is right there. Do I fix this now and screw myself up? No, I don't. I can always, I'd like to build a couple of these at some point, but we'll see if we can get one out the door that's working. Okay. Kind of eyeballing this, trying to figure, again, how much mass we're going to be putting in the back there, and then counteracting it with how much buoyancy and how much mass we put in the front. So a lot of this is just experience and understanding the general mechanics of aircraft design, which, lay people will not know off the bat, but hopefully kind of figure some of this out along the way and get this working pretty well. Like the plane I flew had twin jets on the tail, and so you had a much longer fuselage than empennage to account for the mass of the turbines in the back. And it's also the different flight characteristics. It's not just mass, but... All right, so that's probably pretty good there. So we have a pretty small fuel volume compared to fuselage size. I'm trying not to make it this long. Let's do a quick float test. I want to kind of see how mass and buoyancy interact with one another here. So let's go ahead and spawn this. Okay, it's sitting pretty. It's a little bit more swamp than I'd like. I definitely don't want the wings in there, but we can extend the wings out and try to get more buoyancy off the wings. I want to make sure I don't have any holes. If I have a hole anywhere, it'll be leaking fluid in there, but I will see. So I want to make sure these wings aren't full of... Come on, man. This is my test world. Why is player damage on? So I wonder if the wings are getting swamped. I don't think they should have any should be full of air and should be giving me, but I might have to thicken those wings up to give me some more centerline buoyancy. All right, good. So let's start working on the cockpit. All right, so I need to work at the top of the cockpit, I think, first, and then we can worry about the bottom. All right, so trying to look at some of the old other designs here. All right, so let's go like, oh, come on, man. It's already causing me problems here. Let's see. I'm going to have to count this off, so I might have to move this here because it needs to line up with the other two buys. But I could do that later. Let's go ahead and give me the right block, please, for the third time. Thank you. All right, so I'm just start Windows. Actually, I don't want a window yet. I want a center pedestal, definitely, between on the bridge there, like so. So that should be good for a 3 by window here, 3 by 3 by 3. Actually, let me don't want those windows. This doesn't need to be all that. Let's see if I can't get this lined up. That's kind of more what I want. How wide are the seats? The seats are 3s. Okay, so let's see. I kind of want this to have kind of an obstructed view. I don't want it to be a big bubble canopy. I kind of want it old school. I kind of want it realistic, you don't have great view in a lot of these vehicles because you don't need it, you're a professional. You don't need, to see a bunch of stuff, you're just a professional and you can operate without it, it's, you often see that people really kind of want more visibility than they necessarily need. That's that. Let's actually leave that where it was. Grab these and move them forward. That's pretty good there. There we go. All right, so let's start fleshing this cockpit out here a little bit more. All right, so that's there. And then this can be a 2 by pyramid. So again, this is something that working with 2s and 1s, kind of have to think about to make them match up properly. But it gives it a nice shape. Just takes a little bit of forethought. All right, so that's pretty good there. All right, so that's kind of shaping up. I want, they tend to have pretty long, elongated noses on these, and so I'm going to do the same thing. And so that's to break waves. So Let's go ahead and throw a 1x4 on here. No, let's do a 1x4. And then from there, I want to go flat for a little bit, actually, before I go curve the nose down. You know, at first it'll look a little weird, but I'll get it to work fine for me here. All right, so I need to monitor my space in here in the cockpit. I need to be able to fit my seats in here, so I need to figure that out next. I need to have my seats in a place where they're gonna, where I have enough space for the seats in this cockpit. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those in. It's good to put them in early just to give you spatial awareness of where you want things. And so I want them here. How close can I get to the glass? That's as close as I can get to the glass right there. All right, so now I need to finish off my sidewalls. And do I have... So let's see, let's go one more on this pane here. So... Come on, why won't... Okay, it's interacted with the seat. That's what starts getting annoying, is these seats can't cozy into the glass. You have to put them back, further back than I would like. But let's stick these windows in. Okay, there we go. And then I want to do these here. Okay. You learn these little tricks of where to put things to more easily work with them. All right, good. So let's grab that. That gets us to the wall. Start putting the wall in here. There we go. Okay, good. We get the longest 1x3x1 there. So it's right at the side of the seat. You really don't have good behind you visibility. Like in the airline I flew, you could not see the wingtips. You're definitely not going to see the wingtips of a shorty wing like this, I'll tell you that much. So, you know, a lot of games people want bubble canopies, you know. A lot of helicopters have bubble canopies. Beyond that, the visibility is actually often pretty bleak. And I kind of like that. Like the bleak visibility, I really do. This might be weird. Let's try. Yeah, it's definitely 100% going to be weird. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's put this in here. See how it mates. That's weird, but I'll fix it later. Yeah, it's a little weird, but I'll fix it later. Um, Trying to get the cockpit kind of finished out here. Let's do pyramid. 1x4 there. I don't want that. I'm trying to, let me work this angle again here. 1x4 is fine. I just need to kind of block it out properly. See, like I can't do too much. It noses it out, but let's see what I can do here. Probably gonna be strange to get that type of transition. Yeah, that's too odd for me. Let's see. Kind of like some odd designs, but I have to be careful. I don't want it overly odd. Yeah, that's not bad. It's very beaky, the model that I'm looking at, so I kind of don't mind too much of a beak. You know, because you don't want the water splashing up into the turbines. So having a little bit of a beak works for me, but not too much. So like all this is going to be firewall, which is not really a firewall because there's no engine back there, but Kind of looking at my reference material, trying to get that lined up here how I want it. And we'll call it here soon, and then I will continue on. So, okay, that's there, and then see if I can't do this treatment again, and if it just turns into a very weird kind of abrupt end, which it looks like it's going to, yeah. What I can do is change that over to 1/4. And then I can switch to ones, and I might be able to smooth this angle out a little bit. And again, I don't want to do too much pretty. I want to make this work first and then pretty second, or else, you know, you get in a situation where you have this gorgeous thing that does nothing. And then what's the point, frankly? So, okay, good. So we're kind of there on that. It is weird, but I'm kind of cool with it being a little weird. Okay. And so I am going to end that. I'm not going any further on that nose. All right, so let's go and start squaring this right off. We'll see if this might bulldog it up a little. I kind of don't mind if it's a little bit bulldoggy. Kind of want it to have that nose. I've seen pictures of red on my Discord. That's what everything should look like. She's a French Mastiff, so she has that shorty nose. She's probably heard her snorting and making all sorts of other offensive noises here during the video. She loves to do that when I'm recording. All right, so let's kind of finish this angle off here. Oh, come on. Don't have any of those. Right there is good. Okay, so this is coming along nicely. Keep forgetting I have to put block in there to kind of get some nanny blocks to get this working here. So let's get some nanny blocks in there. All right, so I kind of want to end this a little abruptly, put a bulldog in the end. That's looking good. I like the shape. Now I need to be able to come up and match it. So I really need so this is actually going to allow me probably to do my very steep blocks, which again, 1x1 wedges have the lowest drag. I want that just for performance sake. And so I need that to help me get this out of the water and unstick. I have a bunch of tricks. You know, like anything in Stormworks, you can engineer yourself out of a lot of these problems. And so a lot of it's just engineering solutions to fix these problems. So I have a bunch of, like the cormorant, I've learned a bunch on the cormorant of how to get out of these problems of unsticking and stuff like that. And so you can get pretty close approximations to real life if you kind of, you know, use some engineering methods to get there. And so often you'll even see with these that they have some like facets, and the facets here where it's going to be squared off is like I'm trying to let me see if I can pull up the image again so you can see, but you'll see they have facets like in the front here. Like look at this. See how it has this lip? That lip, what it does is the water comes in and it gets stuck in here. Causes a high pressure, helps push the nose up, and so it causes it so it doesn't dive into the water. These are your jet intakes right here. I think this only uses it for takeoff. That's why they're in the nose. You notice they're angled down. It's going to push it up, help get the nose out of the water. Like it actually gets caught in that groove. The water gets caught in that groove, forcing it to go down. It can't go up and around because it wants to go with path of least resistance. It can't go through this wall. It goes down. That causes a down pressure, a thrust, and it actually the water helps you get out of the water. So that's the benefit in here is these weird angles, they actually are kind of fitting and they fit into what the design should look like. Let's see, this should be one more. So I really want to get this tested. I really do. So that's why I'm kind of trying to finish this next video. We'll, you know, so that's weird. How to do. Like this here, I'm gonna just finish up. I don't mind a little bit of this rippliness. That's kind of Stormworks and how it has to look, so I'm not too bothered with that. I want to get it in the water here in a second, then I want to finish up the video, so. So kind of a flatter bottom in Stormworks helps you get out of the water. So it's a little bit flatter than I would like, but the benefit of that is it actually, where are we at here? Let's see if I can do something here. Might be able to fix some of this hokiness here. See, I came in a little bit on that. Let me try something. Let's try a 2x. If I can find it. That's going to have to be a 1x. Yeah, it definitely have to be a 1x. Okay. Go 1x. Yeah, that's not going to work for me. I can't integrate it well there. There's just no way to integrate that. Let's see, where are we at here? Need something to integrate with this 4 here. See what I can grab off this, if I can't. I could, yeah, I can actually go in a bit. That will work. All right, I think. Let's try that. See if I can't work this. I'm afraid of cutting the buoyancy in the nose down too much, but I can kind of counteract it a little bit with some mass. We got a 2x4. This cuts down my buoyancy in the nose quite a bit, but try to cut in some mass and fix that. Yeah, let's try this. This might cause me issues with buoyancy, but we'll see. Again, we're going to do float test. We'll see what I can do. I can balance it and kind of have it balance a little bit, but we'll see how I end up having to do this. All right, so let's go ahead and let's grab that. Let's actually grab another one of these. A little bit more graceful if I can do it this way. There we go. Okay, so that's a little bit more graceful of a grab. A little bit better of an angle. Okay, so we're starting to get there on this angle here. This needs that. This inverted 1x4. And then how are you going to meet up? You're not going to meet up properly, so let's see how that's going to look. Yeah, doing these as 2s are tough, but I can work with it, get this how I want it. Again, try not to do too much, making it beautiful. I do want to get it looking pretty good. I don't want it to be a complete disaster, but we'll get there. Then I might, I want a bunch of buoyancy in the front. What I could do is this, which is I think what I'm going to do is swap these all out for 1x's. Be a little bit sharp, but it won't be bad. And it will help me get out of the water. It will help me cure some of my front end buoyancy problems because we don't want that front to dive into the water. We really do not. All right, let's grab here. And then again, we can half block those to give me more buoyancy. So I'm liking this duckbill on the front. It's looking pretty good. I'd like a little bit more height, like almost like picking the cockpit up, but I'm kind of happy with it. I just need to check and make sure we're going to float all right. So let's check really quick. So good trick, go into merge. It makes it much easier with this red contrast to see if you have any holes. And any holes are going to cause you problems with buoyancy and stuff like that. So like, especially in here, I want to check. Remember, I was having issues where I was afraid I wasn't getting any, I was having buoyancy holes in my wings. But the wings could also grow a little bit if I need to. And then I'm probably going to put some front canards on. But these wings are probably going to grow. You know, and they could come forward if need be. So center of mass is right there. I haven't put any of the engine stuff in yet, but let's float it. See how it floats. Okay, so it's a little bit low in the wing section, so I definitely want to boost some buoyancy in the wing. But it's sitting nicely. It's about the right length. We should have a shorter empennage, the tail, than the fuselage on the front, just because of the needs I have of counterweighting the engine. Elevator looks a little bit narrow to me. I could extend that a little bit more, but you know, I'll work with that. Good sized rudder. Tail's a little bit abrupt, but you know, actually, like looking at like the Lund class Ekranoplan, I'll bring up a picture and then we'll end it here in a second. Like you see how sharply the tail on the Lund class ends. Like even this, you see how sharply and bulbous the tail is. You see on this one, I think that's the Caspian, one of the Caspian Sea monsters. They have a pretty abrupt tail, so I'm not really, you know, mine doesn't need to be much better than that. All right, so let's end it there. In the next one, I'll probably keep working on this. I want to just get the engine up and running, get this moving, and then it probably you know, I might put this on the back burner and go do some other stuff. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to get in this, and I was kind of thinking, oh, it'd be cool to have an Ekranoplan, so I kind of started work on that. So I will see you guys in the next one.